The Athletic.
G'day there and welcome along to the Race F1 briefing for Friday the 22nd of March 2024, brought to you by the Singapore Grand Prix, the home of Formula One night racing. I'm James Baldwin and you're listening to the podcast that brings you up to speed on the day's big F1 headlines in 15 minutes or less. Friday at the Australian Grand Prix was dominated by a series of events nobody saw coming. They've already had a major impact on the weekend, so let's get you right up to speed. The big news on Friday came out a good 4 hours after the end of FP2, with Williams confirming that Logan Sargeant will have to miss Formula One's Australian Grand Prix as the team gives his chassis to Alex Albon following a ginormous shunt in practice. Albon had to sit out the FP2 session because of the damage to his car suffered in FP1. He ran over the exit curb at the fast turn 6 right-hander, lost control of the car and slammed into the wall on the right-hand side, then slid across the track into the wall on the right-hand side as well. The impact caused extensive damage to the Williams, including breaking the new gearbox that was in Albon's car for this event, and the chassis cannot be repaired at the track. Turn 6 is where it all came undone for him in 2023 too, when he lost out on a big points finish. That has forced Williams to pick between its drivers for the rest of the weekend because it is in the unusual position of lacking a spare chassis at round 3. The reason for not having a spare chassis? Well, Williams had a bad winter plagued by production delays that put its car build behind schedule. It has been impacted by that early on by not being able to pursue development parts that should be on the car already. But another consequence exposed by the situation is the absence of a spare chassis. James Vowles admitted that this was unacceptable in modern Formula One, but he went on to say that while Logan shouldn't have to suffer from a mistake he didn't make, every race counts when the midfield is tighter than ever. So he had to make a call based on the team's best chance of scoring points this weekend. Sargeant, who had a relatively strong opening day in Australia, finishing the 2 practice sessions 14th and 13th, said being asked to give up his car was the hardest moment he can remember in his racing career. But he added that he was completely here for the team and that he will continue to contribute in any way he can for the remainder of the weekend. The American will now spend the rest of the weekend on the sidelines as Alex Albon jumps into his chassis from free practice 3 onwards, with Williams still seeking their first points of the 2024 campaign. All eyes were on the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz at the beginning of on-track action here in Melbourne, with the Spaniard keen to ensure that his body was able to cope with the significant G-forces of his Ferrari, only some 14 days into his recovery from having his appendix removed. Asked how he was feeling after FP2, Sainz answered that he was feeling good, a bit tired, but after a day of practice and not being 100% physically, that's to be expected. But he did feel like it was a good day. But the eyes of the crowd wouldn't stay tuned to Carlos for too long, after it was clear that his participation in Sunday's race looked set. For in the representative session of FP2, Charles Leclerc topped the timing sheets with a 1 minute 2.277 seconds, leading Max Verstappen's Red Bull by just under 4/10. Carlos Sainz trailed Verstappen, who was 0.43 seconds slower than the Dutchman. The feeling on the ground was joyous too, with a small eruption of applause and cheers as Charles put in his best effort. But it wasn't all smooth sailing for Leclerc, who in his race simulations fired his car off of the track at turn 1, shooting across the grass. He was one of many drivers who struggled late in the day as the sun started to get lower in Albert Park. Reflecting on that opening day of track action, Leclerc said it feels good for now, but he was quick to add that he thinks the team needs to continue the progress forward because he is sure that we'll see some surprises tomorrow. And there's no reason for Ferrari to be a bit in front compared to everyone else tomorrow as well. Time will only tell if Ferrari are able to clinch pole position from the RB20 of Max Verstappen.
The Race F1 Briefing.
Lewis Hamilton has had what I would describe as a not very good time out in Australia. The Brit placed only 18th on the timesheets during second practice, saying he's the least confident he's ever felt at the wheel of the W15. It's a stark contrast to where Lewis entered the weekend here in Melbourne as he talked up the potential of Mercedes' latest challenger, with the team hoping to look forward rather than backwards and edge closer to world champions Red Bull. FP1 wasn't too bad for Lewis, placing him in 9th, but when experimenting with setups for the weekend, he tumbled down the order in FP2, placing ahead of only Kevin Magnussen's Haas and the absent Williams of Alex Albon. Reflecting on his day, and particularly that second outing, Hamilton said that he obviously doesn't feel great, adding that the team had one of the worst sessions he's probably had for a long time. P1 generally felt quite good, he said. The car actually in P1 Run 1 felt the best it's ever felt. Then it just got worse and worse. I made some changes, big changes. Well, we made some big changes into P2 and it was tough. The British driver will have to try his best to sort out these issues in FP3 ahead of qualifying on Saturday afternoon. We'll get back to Friday's headlines in a moment, but first of all, I want to speak to you about the Singapore Grand Prix. If you're an F1 fan, you'll know that the Singapore Grand Prix is one of the standout races on the calendar. As the home of Formula One night racing, the Singapore Grand Prix has been serving up dazzling entertainment on one of the world's toughest street tracks since 2008. And with action around every corner, it has become a firm favourite with drivers and fans alike. If you want to experience the unforgettable racing action for yourself, there are still single and 3-day tickets available for the 2024 race, with prices starting at 128 Singapore dollars. Just head to singaporegp.sg to make your selection. So, Red Bull seemed to not be in command of the field on Friday's running, with Lando Norris topping FP1 and Charles Leclerc doing the same in FP2. Max Verstappen admitted that he had a messy day, with the world champion's running time in free practice 2 delayed following some damage sustained in the first session. Verstappen went wide during FP1 at turn 10, resulting in some repair work needing to be done on the floor of his Red Bull as FP2 got underway. It would be another 20 minutes before Max was able to get back out on track, placing himself in a Ferrari sandwich with second on the timesheets. Verstappen's teammate Sergio Perez ended the day in P8 and afterwards spoke of the challenging conditions posed by the late afternoon sunshine and the changing wind conditions here in Albert Park. He said, "As usual, Melbourne is quite tricky, especially when we go into the afternoon. With the sun setting in the west and the main straight facing in that direction," he went on to say that visibility is super poor, with the sun pretty much on your face, so it's really hard to see. After not looking entirely comfortable in Melbourne last year, Perez does think that he's in a good place, so we should be looking strong for tomorrow, he said. On whether he was surprised by the gap to Ferrari on one-lap pace, Perez said that this track seems to be better for them, adding they've also been quite strong on long runs. So, both pole position and victory could be in reach for them this weekend, which, to quote Perez, will be interesting. Well, the action is ramping up here in beautiful Melbourne and some big news stories coming out of FP1 and FP2. But that's it for this episode. I'll be back tomorrow to round up all of the action from qualifying here in Albert Park. In the meantime, head to therace.com, not forgetting that hyphen, for F1 news and analysis. And if you're enjoying these episodes, we'd love to hear from you. You can leave a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or a 5-star rating on the Spotify mobile app. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm James Baldwin, and this has been the Race F1 Briefing, brought to you by the Singapore Grand Prix, the home of Formula One night racing.
The Athletic. As you've probably heard by now, we've teamed up with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for our listeners each week. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code The Athletic, and you'll get a 1-year subscription to The Athletic, plus up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code The Athletic. Make your first deposit of at least $10. Place your first bet on any game and claim your voucher for a 1-year subscription to The Athletic. See BetMGM.com for terms. U.S. promotional offers not available in D.C., Mississippi, New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Available in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 in New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona. 1-800-327-5050 in Massachusetts. 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help in Michigan. 1-800-981-0023 in Puerto Rico. First bet offer for new customers only in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code The Athletic, and you'll get a 1-year subscription to The Athletic, plus up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager.